Danfo offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Danfo offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Each trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshi traditional system Ifa native to Yoruba land, Nigeria, with Danfo, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danfo, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danfo, Africa. To learn more, visit danfo.africa.
Peace, fam. We are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining. Hit that like button again. Please hit that like button. Also, make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. I will greatly appreciate it. Before we get started, I got a couple of announcements. Announcement number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Y'all, we are rolling to Cape Town, March 25th through April 2nd. March 25th. Grant access. Okay. Open system settings. Okay. I don't know. I'm back on my old laptop. So, if little pop-ups and stuff is coming up, then I apologize. But yeah, like I said, I'm back on my old laptop. Well, not laptop, my old desktop. I had to break the cobwebs off of it. And I'm like, you know what? Let's go ahead and bring out the iMac. So yeah, so Cape Town Jazz Festival, March 25th to April 2nd, March 25th to April 2nd. Then we're rolling to Nigeria for the Oshuna Festival. That's August 9th to the 18th. Then we're going to Senegal. That's May 9th to the 18th. And then we're doing Accra and Abidjan, November 8th to the 19th. And then Zanzibar, September 20th to the 29th, y'all. If you're interested in joining us, please visit donfo.africa. Again, please visit donfo.africa to learn more. We will love to host you all. We'll love for y'all to come through on a tour. We just got back from Sierra Leone. Just got back from Sierra Leone on Sunday. Arrived back late Sunday night. We had a great time. We had a great time in Sierra Leone. I've been posting the shorts. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, please follow my Instagram. It's Prince Dynasty Mir is the handle, and also on Facebook and all other social media platforms. Yeah, so go to Instagram, go to Facebook, and yeah, I wanna get into this Anthony Joshua situation. It's so fortunate what happened. Prayers for the families of those who lost their lives in this uh in this tragic accident. I'm very familiar with uh, that area where the accident happened. Right in okay, let me turn that off. The area that happened in Nigeria. on Ibadan Highway, right outside of it happened in Ogun State, and that's the state next to the capital, Abeokuta, is right next to Lagos State, and that area where the accident happened is nothing but um, the big trucks. What are they called? Mac trucks, whatever they're called. Big wheelers, tractor trailers. There we go. That are just parked on the side of the road, all over through that area. It's nothing but tractor trailers and 16 wheelers and Mack trucks, Peterbilts, um, semi trucks, semi trailers, tractor trailers, just parked on the side of the road of that area, because that's the highway we take to get to Oshogbo. It's a straight shot to Osun State from Lagos. So I'm very, very familiar with that area where the accident happened. But let's look at this news article, this news story that kind of goes into the reason why it happened. But guys, what we got to understand when we're dealing with, I can't speak for South Africa, I can't speak for Namibia, but for the majority of Africa, specifically West Africa, emergency response is non-existent. It's not like America. You call 911 and ambulance crews and police officers and all that they're pulling up. Emergency response in Nigeria, it's non-existent. If something happens, you're on your own. Something happens, you hop in your car, go to the hospital, get a neighbor to take you. Waiting on 911, hey. Waiting on emergency response, you're on your own. That's just the reality of it, unfortunately. Yeah, but let's watch this video.
My name is Whitney Allen. I'm a widow, and my husband Ryan died when he was 35 years old when my two sons.
Anthony Joshua's close friend and longtime coach joined the heavyweight boxer out in Nigeria for a heartbreaking reason. It has now been revealed. 36-year-old Sinagami has been hailed as an angel by his heartbreaking uncle after he was killed in a car crash out in Nigeria alongside friend Latif Lats Aliadeli. Sinna and Lats were sitting on the opposite side of the car to Joshua as the pair died instantly when their Lexus SUV smashed into a parked truck. Tributes have poured in from all corners of the boxing world for the beloved duo. Sinna's uncle, Sharai Rami, says his nephew was far more than just a client to Joshua, as he revealed the touching reason why he joined the Olympian on the trip. Both Joshua and Latif shared Nigerian family roots and would often go back to the West African nation to be with their loved ones. But Sinna, the owner of a major gym group in the UK, came along as he didn't want AJ to ever be alone during their planned week-long trip. Shariah told The Times they were friends, Anthony Joshua and Sinna. They worked together, but they began as friends. Even on this trip, he didn't want him to be alone, so he went with him. Joshua is continuing to recover from the fatal crash out in Nigeria, as he revealed on Tuesday, "I feel pain all over my body." Sources close to the 36-year-old British fighter told The Sun that AJ had searing pain in his knees and cried out in agony as he was rescued from the wreckage of the Lexus 4x4 on Monday. Despite his injuries, tests have revealed Joshua suffered no fractures. The star will remain in hospital, however, over the new year, while medics and his mum keep an eye on him and carry out any further tests. Joshua's promoters Matchroom declined to comment on his injuries, but did confirm Anthony is in a stable condition and will remain there for observation. Joshua was just inches away from death after a car carrying the Olympic gold medalist slammed into a parked lorry on the notoriously dangerous Lagos-Ibadan expressway. Nigerian police confirmed the crash was caused by a tyre blowout yesterday. Early investigations claim the driver lost control after the tyre burst because of excessive speed, the police chiefs have claimed. AJ and the local hired driver managed to climb out of the wreckage safely, but Sinna and Lats, who were both sitting on the opposite side of the car, are believed to have died instantly. The trio were on holiday together after having just arrived in Nigeria and were on their way to AJ's family home for New Year celebrations. The crash came just 10 days after AJ celebrated knocking out YouTube star Jake Paul in a money-spinning bout in the US. Insiders now fear the grief and mental scars from the road tragedy could put a potential mega fight with bitter UK rival Tyson Fury in serious jeopardy. They are said to be more concerned by AJ's mental scars, with the return to the ring unclear, without the two pals who were always in his corner as his career skyrocketed.
Guys, be safe out there. You don't need to get nowhere that fast. Like I said, I'm very, very, very familiar with that stretch of Lagos Ibadan Highway. That's the road I take to get to Osun State every time I'm in Nigeria. So guys, be careful on the road this new year. Be safe. And like I said, in Africa, because of the lack of infrastructure, that also affects emergency response. It's non-existent. I want to say Anthony had to be transported in a police car to the hospital, and it was onlookers who took him out, helped him out of the vehicle. And usually when stuff like this happens, the first thing that happens, everybody bum rushes the car with their cameras and camera phones and wants to take snap instead of wanting to lend a helping hand. It's just that, a lot of us are just void of humanity. Everything got to be photogrammed. And then you'll find some people who are sincere who want to help. And the only reason why people really wanted to help, for the most part, don't get me wrong, there's sincere people out there that when somebody gets hurt, they want to lend a helping hand. But because it was Anthony Joshua, it's always Anthony Joshua, and that's why everybody, started to help. But it's sad. Prayers up. It's unfortunate what happened. Where was the ambulance? Like I said, it's the ambulance. There's no emergency response, or a lack of emergency response, in pretty much all of Africa, specifically Nigeria. You call 911 for an ambulance or the police to come, you better off just carrying yourself to the hospital. Again, you're better off just carrying yourself to the hospital. But I'll put the link in the chat room if you guys want to call in and add to the conversation. What y'all doing for the New Year? New Year's Eve. I'm chilling. I'm watching college football. Ohio State plays Miami tonight. I'm going to be watching that. I'm going to be watching the game. College football is my favorite. I do not watch NFL football, really. I'm supposed to be a Raiders fan, but, Raiders, they're not serious about winning. They're serious about not being serious. That's the best thing. That's the best way I could describe that Raiders organization at the current moment. It's serious about not being serious. Can we talk about the U.S. attacking Nigeria? That was going to be a separate show, but if you want to call in and bring that up, yeah, he's very lucky he's alive. And it's just unfortunate what happened to his friends. Who happened to, go to Nigeria to have a great time and enjoy themselves in Nigeria for Dirty December. And this happens. Yeah, it's just it's unfortunate. It really is. Yeah, we'll do a live tomorrow on the the PRs are already bad when it comes to Nigeria at the current moment. I mean, you have the situation up north, the U.S. bombing I mean, the constant kidnappings, the U.S. bombing Nigeria. Now you have this with Anthony Joshua. It's like the North and the South is two separate worlds. In the South, everything south of Abuja, people are celebrating Dirty December. In the North, you might get kidnapped and held for ransom. I doubt there are any Dirty December celebrations in northern Nigeria, because again, you might get kidnapped. But yeah, because you might get kidnapped. Make sure to mention Nicki Minaj's speech to the UN about Nigeria. Okay. What about it? I haven't listened to the entire speech, but I mean, if Cardi B could interview Joe Biden, then I see no issue with Nicki Minaj in her speech at the UN. I see absolutely no issue with it. No issue at all. But guys, links in the chat room. If you want to call in after the conversation, you're more than welcome to call in after the conversation. If not, we'll go ahead and close out. Nicki Minaj ain't getting deported. She's not going nowhere. She's not going anywhere. Nah, people are still going to party. Somebody said this is not the time. They aren't reading the room on Nigeria. This is not the time to party. Nah, people still gonna party. Yeah, people are still gonna have a good time if able. Again, if able, people are still gonna have a good time and party and shake their tail feather. No matter what the situation is. Oh yeah, but Sierra Leone, we had a great time in Sierra Leone. Had a great time. We had some flight delays. You know, we flew out of DC. Again, we flew out of DC. Had some flight delays, but we made it. Had a great time. Returned back safely. I just got back here. Shout out to Mina. Yeah, somebody said they got like video, but I can't. I'm not. My stomach is just too sensitive to look at that stuff. I mean, I saw the car, like the aftermath and the condition of the car, but you know, some people say they have actual videos of the bodies, and I can't. I don't have the stomach for that stuff. No, you're right, Eric. If it was a regular person instead of Anthony Joshua, we will not be discussing this issue. You're correct. You are correct. You definitely are. But links in the chat room if you want to call in, call in. If not, we'll go ahead and close out. In fact, Amina been early on with me. Go ahead, CJ. Unmute yourself. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hear you loud and clear.
All right, cool. Let me mute the background. Hold up. How you doing, Dynas?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I've actually been trying to get on your channel for some time, but every time you're streaming, like I'm always busy, or I'm at work, or I'm on the road
Okay.
because of the time you do it. But man, I'm appreciate your content. My parents are actually from Nigeria. I've actually been on Aphrodonus' channel a couple of times as well. So
Oh, that's what's up.
yeah. And my cousin, he went to Georgia. He played football at Georgia.
What year?
That was like late 2010s, mid
What's
to late
his name?
2010s. He was a wide receiver.
What's his name?
Michael Chigbu.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He started like one season. He hurt his knee,
Okay.
but yeah, he was a big recruit out of Louisiana.
Okay, cool. What's up, brother? What you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the accident with Anthony Joshua, was unfortunate. Accidents happen all around the world. There are more accidents that occur. If you do get an accident in Nigeria, it is way more dangerous because of the lack of medical facilities and the lack of response to getting to somebody in an accident, especially where there's a lot of traffic. But his situation, they did say that his tire busted. They said they might have been speeding, who knows. That road that they're on is actually, from what I've heard, is actually not a bad road.
But yeah, it's really not. But again, it's just the issue is you have all these tractor trailers that are just lined up on the side of the road, which, I mean, if you're driving safely and not speeding, I mean, you'll be fine. But I guess they ended up in the back of one of those tractor trailers. But yeah, I drive up and down the Ibadan Highway all the time. So I mean, it's yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a big problem. I mean, the last time I was in Nigeria was 2021, but I wasn't in Lagos. I was in Abuja and in Imo State. But that's, last time I was in Lagos was a lot long time ago. So, but I do know that that road is not bad. But yeah, the trailers is a big problem. Because the thing about it is, if you know anybody that deals with the trucking industry in the US, there's a lot of regulations on maintenance. You have to get your load checked all the time. You have to have updated, registration. I mean, there's so much control around it, so that's what prevents as many accidents as occurring over here than there. And I think that's one of the things when people are trying to develop an economy, and you're thinking about making money, sometimes the safety is overlooked for the sake of profit. And, that's kind of what happens in a country like Nigeria at times, where, the human safety issue is not as much. And this is one of the big problems is like when people do die in these things, yes, there's an uproar, but a lot of times what happens is as these incidents occur, the value of your life decreases the more and more things happen. Just like in the Bologun market fire, I've seen videos of them pulling out bodies in the market. And when you see people that are just dying due to like these type of preventable things, and
Was that in the actual market, or was that at the UBA building that was there?
I think it was actual building, but I thought from what I was seeing, it was saying it was a building, but I thought it was a Bologun market, but maybe I read wrong.
Well, no, I think the building is like right in
by the market.
Yeah.
So, and that there's a fire all the time. Some people believe it could be, acts of sabotage because it happens damn near like every December. But that's what I've noticed. It's just that in Nigeria, your life, unless you're of high importance, your life is not as valuable. It's just not as valuable, because, and you see it with the fact that politicians, they leave the country for medical treatment, for medical examination, for medical emergencies. I mean, so many of the politicians or heads of state, whether former or current leaders, they die overseas. You know, they get their treatment and then they end up dying overseas, and then their bodies brought back for burial. And I think what happens is that Nigeria has the growth in terms of population is, you know, every time each generation comes, you're increasing poverty even more, because the next generation is more likely to grow up in poverty, come into a society with higher inflation and more issues. And there's really no way to remedy the issue when you're looking at the way that Nigeria is growing. And I think ultimately Nigeria is going to be is going to be an absolute, it's going to be like holding a porcupine for the rest of the countries around its borders, because one day all hell's going to break loose in Nigeria and it's going to be uncontainable. It's just, this is what it's going to be. And these accidents, even though they're not directly related to some of the things we're talking about, because again, this can happen in the US, but yeah, abandoned trailers in certain places, you know, semis being stopped and not fixed and moved around. You know, the US, you put cones, you know, you have emergency response services, they put cones up, they redirect traffic. See, in the US, had that happened, a trailer had stopped, they would have been emergency services, police, fire department, redirection of traffic, cones, you know, flares, you know, the whole 9 yards. But in Nigeria, people that are in Nigeria, they're in a fistbowl, they don't even understand how it would work overseas, you know. And those that travel overseas that set up these companies, they know exactly how things are done in the West, but they can skirt around that and save money by not investing in those type of things. That's all I got to say for now.
Sir, go ahead, Ben. Unmute yourself, Ben.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that Anthony had to get injured and have his trainers get decapitated. I saw the photos; it was terrible. But what I don't understand is Nigerians, right? Like Nigerian Americans or the ones that live in Europe, they go back and forth to Nigeria, and they're used to, you know, Western standards for, you know, social services, emergency services. How is it that they go to Nigeria, don't see ambulances, or rarely see fire trucks, and don't even make an issue of it? I don't understand. How is that a nation that I think their GDP is like $100-something billion a year, and they don't have any ambulances? That is insane. And is other countries African countries in a similar situation?
Yeah, the majority are.
That's terrible. Oh man, you know, I wouldn't want to visit Africa, because God forbid I go to Africa and I get into an emergency situation and I'm pretty much, you know, asked out. That's terrible, man. Eye opener too for me, because I always thought that, you know, ambulances, fire trucks, I guess I take it for granted because I live in the US, but I always thought that you know, those basic services even in Africa should have it. But that situation with Anthony was an eye opener for me.
So they were both decapitated.
Yes, both of them. It's crazy. He was lucky. I think he was behind in the back of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was in the back of the vehicle. That's what saved him. Oh man! All right, you the mic.
Wally says, I was just in Lagos. I didn't like it. On the way from the airport, they had golly. Y'all, listen, I love Nigeria. I do. It has its issues, but I love Nigeria. I see some crap. I've seen some crazy stuff here in America. So, you know, I know it's Nigeria and people want to exaggerate what goes on, but I've seen some crazy stuff here in America, here in the US. But guys, links in the chat room. Link is in the chat room. If you want to call in after the conversation, please call in after the conversation. But yeah, this is just it's just terrible.
Yeah, it's yeah, just like what Ben was saying. Yeah, I saw the video. You know, the thing about it with Nigeria is with the dead bodies. Man, I mean, I'm not saying I'm becoming desensitized to seeing like some of those type of things, but I don't lose empathy on what happens, right? As far as like those type of deaths, I still have empathy, but I am desensitized to seeing like, you know, people's bodies chopped off, chopped up for, you know, and mind you, what people have to understand, and Dynas will even say this, Nigeria has like 230 million people, or anywhere between 180 and 230. I might not be 230, but anywhere between 180 and 230 million people. Most people, like 95% of people in Nigeria are very simple. They go and make their daily bread, and they hang out with their family and their friends. That's literally like 95%. There's like a 5% that are either part of the elite, that are siphoning off money, you know, from, you know, oil or resources or the coffers of government, or they are part of some kind of criminal network, you know, or they are, you know, pretty much trying to get out of the country via, you know, the Sahara or whatever, right? So it's like a small amount of people that are what you would see as, you know, contributing to what is the negative image of Nigeria. But by and large, all over the country, people are very simple, you know, but they are heavily manipulated by those that are in power. So that's the reason why, you know, you're able to have some of these things, because what happens is in Nigeria, when you have, there's no country like Nigeria in regards to the ethnic religious division. This doesn't even exist at this level, because at least in other countries, even if they have like India, they might have a bunch of different ethnic groups, but they're largely Hindu. And, you know, the parts that are Muslim are closer towards the areas where you would have like Pakistan, right? The Punjab region and areas like that. So they do have their issues, but it's kind of like, you know, a different way. They have their own problems that are unique. But Nigeria, when you have people in power that don't really care about Nigeria, because what it is that, truth be told, the politicians, at least most of them, particularly those that reach the highest level of federal office, heads of state, they don't believe in Nigeria. The Nigerian project to them is not anything to build upon. It's something to, you know, as a scavenger project. It's more like vultures. So they look at it like, they look at Nigeria as one big dead body that still has some flesh left, and they're going to continue consuming it until there's nothing left but bones. So when you look at a country that way, this is eventually going to happen that way, because, you know, countries are basically no different than a human body. You know, that's the reason why you have roads. Those are your arteries, your veins. That's how you get things across. Countries work just like bodies. So you have to have so they go through crises, they go through depressions, they go through comatose states. Those are known as recessions and depressions, right? And then you got to do a revival. Sometimes you need a stimulus, right? Same thing with a body. If a body's going through, you know, a lower vibrational state, and it's getting away from living, then you have to implement some kind of a stimulus function into it. Nigeria does not have those mechanisms in place, because those that are in power don't care about those things. And when you look at countries like Botswana, Botswana is a small country, but Botswana during the colonial project was largely left behind because there was no, at the time, viewed as a valuable resource until later on diamonds were discovered. But because they got independence before a lot of these things kind of could take motion, they were able to maintain a level of traditional rulership system that they merged with a democracy. And they have one of the, you know, the most stable countries in Africa, high human development index, high literacy rates, their people are taken care of. And now, even on a world stage, when you're talking about just, you know, as a side note, when it comes to sports, they produce probably the best sprinters on the planet right now. They're literally, if you look up Botswana in sprinting, they're literally like the top of the world when it comes to sprinting. So, and they're a very small country, but they're like 90% Tawana people. They're one ethnic group. So, you know, they don't have the elements of Nigeria that's fueled by religious and ethnic bigotry. You know, one thing what people understand about bigotry and why it works so well in Nigeria is because when you got people at the top that are a lot smarter than the masses, they can always use that to their advantage. They can use propaganda, they can lie, they can use ethnic, religious politics, and then that stifles your growth. There's no country on the planet that can actually elevate with those type of characteristics. Now, the younger generation, you know, that are more exposed due to social media, due to traveling, they're the ones that are going to have to make have a voice. But the fact is that in order for Nigeria to actually make a turn, you would need a violent revolution to topple those that are doing these things. And unfortunately, that's just in regards to human nature. And if you look at history, that's the only outlet as to give Nigeria a chance. But because of the history of the country, a lot of younger people or people in general, they are scared to enact or even think about something like that because it can lead to a huge backlash, because some people may not like a revolution. They would want to maintain the status quo. And that's the reason why even when you look at the situation with Tinubu and APC government, they're just doing exactly what previous administrations have been able to do. And they're not going to fix these particular issues right now. This whole thing went down. Tinubu was in Europe. I mean, there was a video of Tinubu leaving for Europe for his vacation right before this Anthony Joshua accident. He hasn't even addressed the nation about the fire. You know, they sent a little memo after the strike over there in Sokoto. So I think a lot of Nigerians are fooling themselves if they think that some kind of 2027 election is going to help them. I don't care if you put Lee Kuan Yew, you could resurrect him from Singapore, from the dead, the one that built up Singapore. If you put him in blackface, they would kill him for trying to restructure things. So it's very complicated. And I'm somebody who has, you know, family there. I go back and forth, not too often as I used to when I was younger, but I know a lot about Nigeria, you know, and there's certain things that people don't want to admit. But I would say most people in Nigeria do want better. They don't want this. And, you know, even Dynas can attest to this. Like, if y'all think the average Nigerian's like a certain type of way, Dynas knows. That's all. Dynas knows, man. He knows that, you know, you have some incredible people, but you're just misled and misguided by your rulers. And, you know, this is where you're at right now.
All right, guys. Links in the chat room if you want to call in. Click on the link if you want to call in. Please click on the link. Hey, they were talking about charging the actual driver for reckless driving. I think the driver was just released from the hospital, but they're talking about charging him.
Well, there's a lot of people that would need to be charged for reckless driving in Nigeria because there's no respective lane. There's no trafficator being used in a lot of places. Now, I've been through Abuja. Abuja was way more organized, you know, when I was there. I mean, it was, to be honest, when I was in Abuja, most of it felt like I was, you know, in like Houston, California style weather. The highways, the roads, the lights, everything was working. I mean, it felt like being in an American city from a travel perspective. So when in Abuja, you know, because it's the federal capital, there's probably a lot more regulation. And I think that's kind of what happened with Lagos. When the federal capital was changed to Abuja and Abuja was built out, a lot of the stuff that goes on in Lagos wouldn't have happened under like it being a federal capital, if you get what I'm saying. So because you would, you know, the federal government is going to protect their own, and they're going to want a level of organization and direction because you can't have people just swathing everywhere. You can imagine the security risk of being like a politician. If your whole Senate, your whole, federal government offices in a city like Lagos, where people can get at you and hide away, right? So, that's probably one of the big differences with that. But to charge him and not charge other people, that's just, what that reminds me of, Dynas? That reminds me, there was a video of a Dutch traveler. She traveled on bike through Nigeria to, I think, like the Cameroon.
Yeah. She got shook down by the police.
She got shook down by the police, and they allegedly fired those two guys.
Yeah, they did.
Now, the only reason why they did that, because she's white. She's a foreigner, because she's a white foreigner. They shake down where my parents is from. That's like a natural process. And if you go to the East, there's checkpoints everywhere. Like, and I saw this as a kid back in, 96. I think, 96, because that was when Abacha was ruling. So there was military everywhere, but it wasn't even that bad back then as far as checkpoints, but they shake you down everywhere. You can't even, if you want to drive through Nigeria and think you're not going to get shaken down, that's like part of the process. But for it to be on camera, and for it to be done to a white person, they're like, oh, we got to fire. And the thing about it is, because of the way a lot of Nigerians think, they'll be in the comments, because I looked at the video and they're like, oh, they fired him. Yeah, that serves them right. That serves them right. But these same people they serves them right. When they travel on road, they don't fire those guys for shaking them down. So it's like this thing where people accept a treatment on themselves, but don't want it for others. It's a very weird dynamic. And that's just having a low self-image of yourself, because you believe that when foreigners come, particularly white foreigners, that they should get better treatment because they are not the same. They're not the same as you. And this is stratified, because in Nigeria, if you're Fulani, you're basically the white man of Nigeria. So you can't even touch a Fulani. And I know there was a Fulani guy that was on your channel the other day. I wanted to get on, but I was busy.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, like, you're over here. Dude's acting, dude. Everybody knows Fulanis can do whatever they want. They're the white man of Nigeria. And the thing about it that's so sick about how Nigerians think, they're actually okay with other ethnic groups receiving mistreatment as long as not their own. But they don't understand that when you are supporting the mistreatment of one ethnic group, then what is eventually going to come for yours, because that's how oppression works. Oppression eventually consumes everything in its path. Bigotry ends up basically being a situation where people will be so bigoted against another ethnic group that they'll cut off their nose to spite their face. It's the same. It's just like here in America. The only reason why America doesn't have nationwide healthcare because white people didn't want black people to get it. So they were willing to forego healthcare just so black people couldn't get it. And so this type of practice that happens, it ends up being a problem to everybody. So now everybody's dealing with the Fulani problem. It was when one ethnic group or two was dealing with the Fulani issue, people didn't care. Now everybody's dealing with the Fulani problem. Everybody's getting touched with the Fulani issue. And now people have to be honest with themselves about what is the issue in Nigeria. And then you got Sheikh Gumi out here just talking crazy. But people were celebrating on Twitter and all these places when Nnamdi Kanu got sentenced to life in prison. And then the next week, Fulani bandits are kidnapping children, massacring these people. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and then Sheikh Gumi's out there like, if you touch them, Allah's gonna deal with you. It's like,
that's wild.
You know what I'm saying? And these people, and the thing about it is Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians don't see that they're playing themselves in the long run. And the thing is, you got to talk to these crazy people. You know, these people jump on your stream and they just start saying, I'm just like, come on, man. Like, dude. And, some people, they'll support it up until the point that their village gets touched. Because even former head of state, Gowon, he's still alive. Yakubu Gowon is like damn near approaching 100. He's like 90 now, I think. His whole community has been ransacked and taken over by Fulani.
Really?
He's out there in the middle of the belt. His area of I think he's from Plateau State, if I'm not mistaken. His community area, those areas have been ransacked and taken over by the Fulani multiple times. They damn near share that place with the Fulani at this point. He says nothing. But this is a guy who supported the Fulani. He was a big backer of the Fulani, when he became head of state. So everything eventually, like they say in Nigeria, may Nigeria not happen to me. You've seen that, Dinas,
Right.
where people say, oh no, hopefully Nigeria does not happen to me. No, Nigeria is going to happen to everybody. It's eventually going to touch everybody. Eventually, something is going to occur that you're going to realize what Nigeria is until you either try and fix it or you get rid of it altogether. And unfortunately, we're in a new age of industrial revolution with AI. Nigeria is basically still pretty much, Nigeria is not even behind. Nigeria was ahead by independence and then the oil boom with OPEC and with the reserve currency of the petrodollar. Nigeria was ahead of Korea. A lot of people don't even know this. You probably know this, Donis. Nigeria was ahead of Singapore, South Korea, China in terms of GDP. Human Development Index was higher. And people, because they felt like it was okay for those in power to continue stealing and continue basically creating a system where you don't even have a meritocracy. You have what's called federal character. You have federal character and quota system that was created, in the early 70s. And that allowed for mediocrity to basically take over. So that allowed for people that were not competent to basically be in positions that they shouldn't be in. And you see it fall apart and all across the board. In Nigeria, with all these naturally talented athletes, can't even produce a gold medal. Any Nigerian who usually wins a medal has to basically be in another country. And it doesn't embarrass people. I think it's a lack of shame. And you can't promote the 1% lifestyle and say this is Nigeria. People are eventually going to pull your card and show you what you really are. And that's what's happening with a lot of Nigerians. They're embarrassed by the fact that the reality is stuff is messed up. You can't sit there and promote clubbing and the club lifestyle and people in G-Wagons and people popping bottles and say, yeah, Nigeria this, Nigeria that, Nigeria. Then you can't, when you go to where your parents are from, your village, you ain't got no running water. You don't got reliable electricity. You got to have a generator. You know what I'm saying? You got to have security wherever you go. It becomes something where you're having this cognitive dissonance, telling people Nigeria is great, while at the same time you know that it's messed up. And I like to deal in the space of reality. I don't like to deal in the realm of fantasy. So not that Nigeria is not great if you have access and you meet some decent people, that's in any society, right? But we have to be, as a whole, collective, you have to be concerned about your people as a whole. And I think where it comes from is I've noticed that a lot of people live vicariously through their elites. So it's like you'll see somebody become head of state or they become popular and they just live through that individual. And that comes from the mindset of dealing with kings and rulers, where the people had no problem being paupers because they can always look to their king, either for sustenance, to be taken care of. And there's this dynamic that still exists within Nigeria, where this mindset where as long as, somebody that I like is at the top, I can always brag about that person and how big they're living. And that's why you see pastors swindling people like crazy. I just seen a video today. Pastor had these clots and was like, hey, I got these clots. Whoever, 50 people need to give me $5,000 and they're going to get a blessing from God. This is in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a psychosis of the people that are allowing themselves to be deceived into their own destruction. And some people, they're okay with that. That's the scary thing, because they don't see the end game. They don't see that their future of their kids is going to be bad. And truth be told, if Africa does not get itself together, Africa will just be one big labor camp of people digging out mineral resources and rare earths. That's what Nigeria, that's where Africa is going. Majority of Africa is going to become. It's going to be like the Congo, just one big labor camp of people digging out metals, rare earths, minerals for the rest of the elites, whether it's the people in United Arab Emirates, whether it's the Chinese, whether it's the Russians, whether it's the Europeans or the Americans. And the fact is that, if you don't got the ability to protect yourself, this is one of the big issues with Africa. Muammar Gaddafi wanted to create a nuclear weapon. He wanted to have nuclear power. Just having the deterrence of a nuclear threat keeps those type of people at bay. And we're in a dog-eat-dog world. You see how, Trump is moving? He's trying to get that oil out of Venezuela. Ain't no telling what his plan is with Nigeria. Nigerians were celebrating over the strike. I'm like, these people y'all not smart. They're celebrating over the strike as if it's going to change things. You don't even understand.
Now let me read this super chat. AJ Niger, thank you for the $5 holla. I hope you're not defending Nigeria's bad infrastructure on Al Gore's internet. No, I'm not defending Nigeria's bad infrastructure, not at all. I'm just saying what happened per what they're saying. The guy was speeding because I'm very familiar with that stretch. The driver was speeding because I'm very familiar with that stretch of Lagos Ibadan Highway. Go ahead, Wall Street Willie.
So I want to ask you, and peace to the panel, with the Nigerian infrastructure, like things like electric, for instance, like is the issue that the people aren't willing to pay?
No, the people are willing to pay. It's just the infrastructure is just not there to provide the electricity for the people.
So from what I'm hearing, what determines whether you have electric all day or not is what portion of the package you buy, right? Very similar to America. There's like an A package, a B, and C. And from what I'm hearing, like their lower package is basically free. So as opposed to Kenya, where, yeah, everybody's kicking in. Everybody's paying. It's kind of a standard fee. And so they have more access to electric. Is that an issue for Nigeria? Because Nigeria has like a generator culture, right? After a certain hour, everything's running off a generator.
And they have blackouts, rolling blackouts. So
Right. So is the issue that the people aren't willing to pay for the infrastructure? Because one thing we know is you get what you pay for. So if you're not paying for the infrastructure, yeah, you're going to have to deal with blackouts.
well, the infrastructure is not even built for them to pay for.
But how when so from the way I get it, these people who really aren't paying for electric, they still do get electric. It may just be for like 6 hours out the day. So the
Well,
infrastructure's there.
no, the infrastructure is not there, Willie.
I mean, if I'm getting electric for 6 hours out the day, right? But I want 14 hours. I want 24 hours, God forbid, right? The
Nigeria does not have the resources or the infrastructure to sustain 24-hour electricity.
So by resources, you're saying the wealth?
Say that one more time.
By resources, are you saying the wealth? Because
They don't have the infrastructure to sustain 24-hour electricity.
So what's preventing the person that gets 6 hours of electric from getting 24?
Yeah, well, I don't know where we're going with this, Willie. I think you're just purposely not trying to understand.
No, I understand, but I'm saying my argument is the infrastructure
Because
is there.
it's not there, Willie. It's not there.
I just think it's underinvested in. There's
It's
a
not
reason
there.
why in the poorest town in Nigeria, you can get 6 hours of electric, right? So the
Right.
question is, how will we
But you
increase the
can't get
6 hours?
but you can't get 24.
That's the question. How would we increase the 6 to 24? But the fact that they can get 6, that is proof.
I'm
The infrastructure's there.
I'm not an electrical engineer, but the infrastructure or whoever would provide electricity, whatever. I'm not that, but all I know is they don't have the capacity for people to get 24-hour electricity. In fact, the national grid was down a couple of days ago for like 24 hours. So I don't know really.
I'm saying it's investment.
Really, obviously, if they can't get 24-hour electricity, the infrastructure is not there.
Yeah, the electricity was ran by, well, it's formerly called NEPA, Nigerian Electric Power Authority, which is a government run.
CJ, you went out.
Oh shoot, I'm out. Can you hear me?
A little bit better. We gotta speak up.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, Nigeria initially had NEPA, which I think has changed to another name, Nigerian Electric Power Authority, and there was reliable power probably up until like maybe the 70s, but I would say probably by the 80s, at least according to my dad, that's when it probably got bad. But the times even when I went back and forth as a kid, and my dad had a business out in Aba, back throughout the 90s and the 2000s, there was, every time we would go there, there was a certain time of the day that you expected light to not be on. Oddly enough, summer of 96, I was there, and Nigeria was in the Olympics, and they were this is a true story. When Nigeria was playing in the Olympics and they were on the way to win the gold for the soccer, when they beat Argentina and Brazil under that golden age team, the Nigerian government kept the electricity on for those games. So during that time, there was no blackout. Whenever Nigeria
view the game,
yeah, so you could see the game. I was there. I was in Nigeria that whole summer when that happened. So there is a Bia state. They have a state-run electric power, so they actually have power,
and they have infrastructure.
Yeah. Because the infrastructure, if you're talking about from a grid standpoint, right? The original one was already created, but of course, if you have a higher population, as your population grows, there's going to be more stress on the electrical grid, right?
And so immigration affected that ability, that capability to provide this electric. Like there were a lot more people, correct?
No, not immigration, because there was only a few different countries that had immigrants going into Nigeria. No, Nigeria had a population boom. So when you have a population boom, that's going to be more houses, more need of electrical power.
Now, this is what I'm asking you to clarify for me, because I had a Nigerian tell me that the population boom was due to outsiders coming in. But are you saying that it's from an internal?
I've never heard a Nigerian say that. Nigeria has like one of the highest birth rates on the planet. And
really?
Especially back in the 90s, you're talking about, the average female, I think even in the 80s and 90s, you could ask ChatGPT. I mean, having less than, even
Nigeria,
even when I was growing up, in the US, I'm from Houston, so I'm born and raised in Houston, so that's the largest, Nigerian population in the US. And it was like, for me to meet a Nigerian family that had less than 4 kids was strange.
Gotcha. Well, the issue with Nigeria is it isn't Nigeria is overpopulated, is that the people that live in the rural areas of Nigeria are moving into the cities, like Lagos and the other major cities in Nigeria. They don't have the infrastructure to support all of the influx of Nigerians that are moving into the city. Like Lagos, I believe there's over 20 million Africans that live inside the city of Lagos. That's bigger than, the population of New York City. And you can imagine the power grid stress that's in New York City. Mm-hmm. But, electricity is like what I do professionally. And ironically, right, what you guys bringing up about, places like Nigeria losing power is, the funny part is, you ever notice how they ask you to put like solar panels on the top of your homes?
Yeah.
You ever wonder why, like those solar panels, right? I don't know if you're not that familiar with it, but What happens is when your house or when the solar panels on the top of your house absorb that sunlight and transfer it to electricity, you don't use that electricity that was produced by the solar panels directly for your home. What happens is that power that was produced by the solar panels are sent
Feeds the
back to the
grid.
power grid so
Right.
that it can supply electricity to everybody
And you get a
uniformly.
discount on your
And
bill
you
for
get
how
a yeah,
much
you get a rebate or a discount
it
on your
can.
bill.
Right. I'm with you.
Now, this is the issue with our power grids, especially the one in the United States, the one in Africa, and then the one in Europe and even in Asia, is everything technology modern our grids are based on old technology.
True.
Like all of our lights, we used to have incandescent light bulbs and things like that, or old filament light bulbs that required a lot of wattage. Everything nowadays, you can look on the back of your telephone, your not your telephone, but on the back of your flat screen television or the LED lights. All of that requires very low voltage or very low wattage. And what's happening is we got here in the United States, we have all of this wattage getting drawn sent to our homes, but our appliances don't need that much voltage. And what happens is the transformers that you plug into your outlets is reducing the voltage and reducing the wattage to a lower voltage to supply your appliances. So technically, if you took your home off the grid, you can run all the electrical appliances in your home with just the sunlight that you could produce off of your solar panels. The problem is they not
Solar
doing that.
panels are expensive.
The solar panels are expensive and they're not going to separate your home from the power
From the
grid.
grid. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're making too much money off of people using the power.
That
So
makes sense. So for
Africa,
me as a consumer, why spend the money on the solar panels if I'm still gonna have to pay the electric bill anyway?
right? Yeah. So the
Right.
the issue with Nigeria is because since it's such a up and coming country, technically, if they wanted to, they can build all of their new cities on a new power grid system where it doesn't require the 220 volts that the Europeans use or the Asians use or the 120 volts that we use here in America. The problem is all of your appliances that you purchase from America, that you purchase from Europe,
Are
that you purchase
already
from
pre-set up to
are
run on.
already
I
pre-set
got you.
up to run on the higher grids. So if Nigeria was smart and a lot of countries were smart in Africa, what they would do is they would start building their own appliances that will run on
Different
a,
grid level.
a different grid level,
Voltage. Yeah.
and you wouldn't need to burn oil. You wouldn't need to consistently produce power with nuclear energy.
But
You can
that's the continent's problem. They're getting all their products from outside the continent.
right, yeah.
Hearing you break it down though, it makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that, bro.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Yeah, but the thing with is it's a very unfortunate thing that happened to brother Joshua and his family members or his close friend that died in that accident. You know, definitely got to wear your seatbelts even if you're having fun out in Africa. I don't know if they were out partying or drinking. I'm just assuming that, but you know, that's just a tragic injury. Um, a tragic circumstance that happened to him and his friends and family members, and I hope for the best of them. Hope for the best going forward for him. And as far as like the emergency systems that's going on in Africa, like yeah, you know, I don't know what happened, why it took the emergency crews so long to get there, but that's another thing. Like, you know, in the process of building that infrastructure when it comes to electricity, there's other things that you can do to help with infrastructure, like maybe medevacs, like helicopters or even medical drones that could get there at a quicker pace than maybe like an ambulance that might have to transport through all of the traffic in the Nigerian town or in Lagos or wherever he was.
Yeah, but the problem with that is a drone can't ship medical staff.
Right.
We'll need the
Yes.
humans. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all kinds of.
Yeah,
Is
he was very fortunate he had no internal bleeding or anything like that. Like,
right.
because I mean, I saw the video, the accident. I mean, I saw the aftermath, and man, I mean, both of his friends' heads was gone.
Damn.
I mean, it was gone. He was behind the driver, so the vehicle was hit the trailer on the right side, so his friends had no chance. They were going to be done. I mean, it's about willingness. It's just like I had a friend from the Bahamas. He played college basketball in Texas at a HBCU, and he said his coach asked his teammates, about things they can do or not do. Are you unwilling or are you unable? Because if there's something you're unable to do, then that's different. But if there's something you're capable of doing but you're unwilling, then that's a big problem.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to Nigeria, it's not that there's people that are unable to do these things that you're talking about. It's just that, they're unwilling. Yeah, the unwillingness, and the unwillingness comes from the top. I see a lot of people make comments in various blogs or social media spaces, and they'll say, it's the leaders aren't the problem, it's the people. We need to change ourselves. No, the people need to decide to change who the leadership is, even if they got to do it by force, or the leaders is going to lead you in the direction that you're going, because the leaders set the tone. You do not create a country like what China became over the last 20 years because the people at the bottom decided to make that happen. That was leadership at the top that had a vision and a plan. Ask a Nigerian politician, what is the plan for Nigeria of 2050? Because if you go to these other countries, they actually have a 2050 goal. They have a 2030 agenda, they have a 2040 agenda, they have a 2050 agenda. And guess what? Part of the agenda of the European countries, the Western countries, is for you to be under digital slavery. While you're thinking about how I can't get water, I don't got electricity, I don't got access to this or that, they're thinking about how are they going to put you under digital slavery.
Yeah.
And Tinubu just sold out Nigeria to France. But guess what? He could do that because the people, there's a mass of people that have this weird dynamic about how they look at leadership in Nigeria. So when they see that Tinubu and the federal government administration sold out to the French to have to tax Nigerians, they think that the next leader that comes up is going to be able to abolish that. They think if they put Peter Obi in there, that all these agreements are going to go away. That's what
is that what he's running on?
Tinubu ran. Listen, there's a video before Tinubu was forced his way to be president. When he ran on a campaign, you can look it up. He had a video where he told the people on television, I'm going to reduce purchasing power. You can look it up. Just type in Tinubu, reduce purchasing power. He told the people that he's going to cut that down. He's going to take away fuel subsidy. He did that. There was people, when he was finally announced as the president, they celebrated.
About saying that you've taken these tankers, like it just came from a very weak position, because it was like, so what? Like nobody really cares about this video. There's nothing you can really do.
Guys, let me read these super chats real quick. John Kofi, 9501, thank you for $5 holla. You measure the strength of a country not by its women, by its poor. Larry Davis, thank you for the $5 holla. All right, go ahead, Will.
Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I was always kind of under the assumption that Tinubu was, I'm not going to say under the control of, but working with Western powers. And when you look at what's gone on in the last couple of days, it just left me like confused. Like, dag, is he just kicked out the whip, or is it the honest fact that Nigeria was never really factored in to the plans of these other Western countries in the first place. So they're the first martyr that's used. They're the first, pawn to go off the chessboard.
Yeah, well, Tinubu's a very interesting situation because what power is really more covert than overt, right? So a lot of times, especially
Agreed.
people around the world, most 90 something percent of people believe that power is what you see in front. So if they say somebody's head of state or president, right, they believe that person is actually has like this absolute authority and power to do as they please. So they look at them as some level of like almost like a person that's like ruling like they're Stalin or something, when they're not. Tinubu, even his rise to power and all that was, basically controlled by various people within the political elite structure.
Correct.
So when you look at even with Tinubu, right? So, okay, I'm gonna give you an example. When you look at, there's like a quote unquote, because of the division of the ethnic / religious divisions within Nigeria, whenever they brought back quote unquote democracy in 1999 after Obacha had passed away, and then they basically wanted to bring it back, and they brought back, a democracy, in air quotes, by the way, and Obasanjo became president. There was this gentleman's agreement that if you run for president, you have to rotate it 8 years between the different North and South, and that one of your VPs has to be of a different ethnic group and religion as you. So, for example, when Obasanjo ran, he was a Yoruba man, Yoruba Christian, and he ran with a Northern Muslim as his VP.
And even like with Tinubu now,
Right.
like his VP is a separate group.
Yeah, but see, the thing about it, there was Muslim ticket.
Mm.
That was never to be expected. So the fact that even under a quote unquote gentleman's agreement that the masses believed in, the masses of Nigeria believed that this is the standard
that we should use.
The masses, there was certain part of the masses
couldn't see
that didn't have a problem with it because, he's from my ethnic group. So even though it's a Muslim ticket, he's Yoruba, so I'm going to support him.
Right.
Versus, why doesn't he go get like a middle belt Christian? Well, you can't do that because how do you win votes in the North if you get a Northern Christian, maybe somebody from the middle belt? So from a political standpoint, the belief is that the only way you can fully rig an election or win an election is that you at least have to have one Northerner and one Southerner on your ticket to win. And so when he won, that to me set the precedence that you don't need to have a
separate religions,
a Christian Muslim ticket or Southern Northern ticket. That changed it to so no one could even bring that up anymore. There is no gentleman's agreement on that.
That's crazy.
Now, so you can forget about that. Now, the thing about it, well, Tinubu's wife is a Christian, but it doesn't matter what his wife is. I mean,
she got an Arab, Muslim husband.
Yeah, you had Murtala Muhammad was married to a Christian woman when he was head of state back in the early 70s. Who your wife is not going to matter, especially to a Nigerian. They're more patriarchal focused.
Correct.
And his wife is, there's a lot of, things. She's a very bigoted individual. She's a pastor, but she's a bigot against other Christian minority groups. So when they did that, that let me know too. Another thing when it comes to Tinubu is that Tinubu has dirt on his name for the Western governments because of his dealings in his alleged dealings in the drug trafficking in Chicago. So that makes you kind of a puppet to the West because they can always use that to smear you as a reason to take you down or to discredit you. So he's kind of tied in that area. And then another thing is the way the APC political organization is structured and the way historically Nigeria has been structured, you really do have to deal with the Sokoto Caliphate. So there's nobody.
Now let me ask you a quick question, because I get the drug dealing part of it, because that's literally how he's being kind of, classified or kind of paint the picture of as being that now. But prior to that, though, it seems like he was almost a darling of the West.
Yeah, to a
Like, what
certain
caused
degree.
the change in that?
Well, I wouldn't say he was more of a darling. It's just that the West didn't condemn the election and what happened with it, because if the West doesn't condemn who's in power, especially if they have need of resources, right? Then that means you're in their good graces at the end of the day, or you could eventually be in their bad graces. I mean, heck, at one point the West was a supporter of Saddam Hussein, and then they flipped on him, right? So when you look at Tinubu and his situation, he's really not like the really one that's in power. I'm gonna give you an example. When the coup happened in Niger, and he basically it was France contacted him to go and invade Niger. Do you know why? You know who, when he was ready to go to do it, do you know who stopped him from doing it?
No clue.
The Sultan of Sokoto. Saludo.
Why?
Because he has power to override any head of state.
But why would that be in his interest, though, to do that?
Because one, Niger is a place where there's a lot of Muslims. Sokoto Caliphate actually stretched into Niger historically.
Sure.
So that to him is his realm of influence. It's a lot of Hausa people there, but you got Fulanis that go, Fulanis go all the way through the Sahel region. So they're not even just in Nigeria. So he stopped it. He literally said, you're not going to do that. So you can't even, if you look at any head of state historically in Nigeria that has ever been head of state, they all had the support of the Emir or Sultan of Sokoto. All of them did. The only ones that didn't were the ones that came into power by happenstance. That's former military head of state Aguiyi Ironsi, right before the Civil War. He came into power out of happenstance. He never intended to be in power, because he foiled the first coup. He came into power trying to reorganize get the country back on track, and he was overthrown. Another one is Goodluck Jonathan. Yaradua passed away because he was a very old age when he became president. He died. And because he died, of course, the VP has to naturally take over. That was never the intention. And that's why Goodluck Jonathan was not liked by the Northerners, because they felt that the North should get their 8 years because the South got their 8 years under Obasanjo. So they did not like Goodluck Jonathan at all. And that's when a lot of this Boko Haram stuff started. You could look it up. A lot of that Boko Haram started during the time of Goodluck Jonathan, because that was the time when there was frustration and belief that a lot of Nigeria was going to fall into the control under those in the South, particularly those that are in that Niger Delta region, or the former Eastern region. That's what it was called back in those days in the 60s. So, when you look at that, Tinubu is not somebody that I would blame for too much of what is going on in Nigeria, because Tinubu, even though he's a corrupt person himself, the corruption and some of the things were already there before he even got to power.
It was already built into the.
It was already built in. So even if Peter Obi became president, in fact, to be honest, even if Peter Obi became president, it'll be actually worse, not because of Peter Obi, but because he's not part of that original establishment that was part of that cabal. You know what I'm saying? So it would actually be worse, because there would actually be more reason to be more violent. Yeah. Oh yeah. It'd be way worse. Yeah, it'd be way worse. Even though Peter Obi does have access to, certain people in positions of power in the North that are like cool with him.
CJ got a super chat question for you.
Go ahead.
How powerful are the Fulanis of Nigeria and across West Africa, and why?
Yeah, they're pretty powerful in Nigeria, but not in the other places. Under Usman Dan Fodio, that's back like in the early 1800s, the Fulani invaded what is now known as northern Nigeria, and conquered the people of Kano, and they conquered the northern territory of the former Oyo Empire, which is where the Yorubas had had power in what's known as Ilorin. And ever since then, Fulanis have kind of set the pace of, what became Nigeria later. So before the Nigerian project under the British, Fulani already had major influence over various minority groups in northern Nigeria, the Hausa. They did not have the same over other groups in the south because they were not in the same territory, but they did have a rivalry, you could say, to a certain degree with the Yoruba. But Fulanis are very powerful. I mean, Fulanis in Nigeria, they're very powerful. Fulanis are practically untouchables in Nigeria. I mean, I've seen it. I've been in Abuja, and I've seen their cattle coming through Abuja.
That echoes things that I've heard, even in terms of the cattle grazing and going onto different people's lands. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Well, hold on. Let me address this guy. This guy says I'm lying. I'm not lying. These people don't. I've studied Nigeria for 25 years. 25 years. You got people in Nigeria that don't even know other ethnic groups. They don't know what a Baggy person is, a Jokun, Angas. They don't know these people.
What caused you to choose Nigeria as what to study? Out of curiosity.
No, my parents are from Nigeria. I mean, it's something that I've on and off looked into.
Got you. You grew up in America, though, clearly.
Yeah. But so these
sound like all my homeboys.
yeah. He's talking about misinformation. As soon as the internet came, I got curious.
Right.
Once I got access to high-speed internet, I wanted to know some things for myself.
I respect that.
Yeah, so I'm not. So this guy saying I'm lying. See, someone like me, I'm the worst enemy to a Nigerian that's trying to push something else other than what the reality is.
Yeah.
There's other ethnic groups that are minorities in northern Nigeria. I never said my Hausas were a minority. I said they dominated Hausas and other ethnic minorities. That's exactly what I said. Hausas are the largest group in northern Nigeria, but they were dominated by the Fulanis. This is just facts. And other minority groups were eventually dominated by the Fulani. Okay, but they weren't able to dominate like certain people in the Middle Belt. And by that time, that's, the British project came into play, during the Scrabble of Africa. So a lot of that aggression that the Fulani had to kind of be scaled back due to the presence of the British. But as soon as the British left, the aggression of the Fulani showed its head again. Because as soon as the First Republic happened in the 1960s, you can look this up. See, you can go and verify. That's the beautiful thing about information. You can ask ChatGPT.
This echoes a lot of what I've been taught from, other guys that have been to the region, from the region. Like, this does echo a lot of the things that I've already heard. So I'm locked in. I definitely don't think you're a liar.
Yeah, and I don't blame Fulani for doing what they're doing because they're able to get away with it. See, if you're 5% of the population and you're able to wield this kind of power and influence over the people,
how are they able to
I'm going to clap my hands to you because you're able to do that.
But are they able to do that through military or just through legislation and policy?
Well, they're able to influence certain groups to look
What
out for
they
their best
want
interest or to
done.
do their bidding.
Okay.
So anytime see, power is, people think power is in numbers all the time. Power is not in numbers. Power is in code. The power is in the code. The power is not in the number. So
When you say the code, what you mean? I think I know what you mean, but I want you to clarify for the audience and me as well.
yeah, the code is that Fulanis have a code that they go by. So, and they understand how to wield their power. They understand how to wield their influence. They know exactly who they can play with and who they can't play with.
Right.
There's certain groups that Fulani are not going to go head war with. They're like on a battlefield. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They would rather influence other groups to sacrifice their own bodies. And if they can get somebody else from another ethnic group and tell him, you get your people to go fight and die for our cause,
We'll let y'all get wiped out.
yeah, you do
our
it for
cause.
us.
Yeah.
So they were able to do that. They're
Damn.
at the very top. I'm talking about their political elite. I'm not talking about like your herdsman. Your herdsman is not making these decisions. But the
Right.
thing about it, your Fulani elite protect their own herdsmen
Right.
because one, the cattle business is part of the wealth of the Fulani elite. So those Fulani herdsmen that are going around all throughout the Sahel, especially all throughout Nigeria, carrying AK-47s and swords, those are the workers of the elites. So if you touch them, you're touching their elite. So that's why people get scared when Fulanis come through, whether they're herdsmen or bandits, because you know if you start to deal with them directly, then you're going to have a backlash. In the 2000s, there was a lot of conflicts going on in the Middle Belt. You can look at this up. See, these guys that say I'm lying. Anybody says I'm lying, the beautiful thing, we in the age of the internet, you can look this up. In the 2000s, there was a lot of conflict in the Middle Belt. Just look up Jos riots, Plateau riots, Kaduna riots. Whenever the people in that area would fight back against the Fulani, the Nigerian military will come through and defend the Fulani. So you got pretty much the monopoly on violence, because the Nigerian military is primarily made up of Muslim Northerners. Look up the Nigerian military patch. It has Arabic on it. So they have consolidated their power under this situation where politically, not only do they have a lot of sway and influence, but militaristically, they have a monopoly on violence. And that came with over decades of them purging out Southerners out of the military. If you want to look up the history of Nigerian military, go back to the pre-colonial times. The pre-colonial times, because under the pre-colonial times, when they had the colonial army before independence in 1960, the British controlled how the military was structured and who would get in. You had to actually go to military academies like Sandhurst in England to become a military officer for the Nigerian military under the colonial army. And you had to pass. You had to pass tests, you had to pass the training and all that stuff. So you're talking about back when the military was set up, you actually had British standards. And what happened was certain groups of people were dominated that because they were able to pass those standards. And what happened is the Northerners, before the independence happened, they complained about the fact that there was not enough Northerners in it. So the British lowered the standard to allow for more Northerners to get in. This is all facts. You can look it up. I have all the documents. I've looked up the history. So as time went on, the coups, the war, people from the Eastern region, the former Eastern region, a lot of them ended up out of the military. As you get through the 80s, the Yorubas started getting pushed out. So the Yorubas that were in the military, because there was a couple of attempted coups that were predominantly done, that were attempted by Yorubas in the 80s. I think Diwa, and you can look up the different attempted coups in Nigeria. That led to the kind of slow purging away of other Southern groups. So by the time you got into the 90s, under the time of like Obacha,
everyone
else military was pretty much
out.
Northern Muslim. Yeah, and there was execution. Some of these people were executed, some people were imprisoned or removed. And you could even see some of the executions. I think they even still have them on YouTube for some of these people that had attempted coups later. And so some of there's a particular attempted coup that was done by certain middle belt officers that were from middle belt Christian areas. They were pushed out because there was a lot of middle belt Christian during the time of the war because of Gowon. Gowon and T.Y. Danjuma, those are two military men that were from the middle belt, and they were Christian. And during the war, a lot of their people were put in the military to fight against Biafra. But as time went on, after Gowon was overthrown in the coup and Murtala Muhammad took over, a lot of those people were kind of felt disenfranchised. And then eventually the middle belt tried to attempt a coup in Nigeria, and then they were kind of slowly purged out. So over time, as time progressed, the Nigerian military became way more Northern Muslim. And that's where we're at today. And that helps the Fulani cause, especially the Fulani elite. So that's part of the issue why people are scared to stand up or have a revolution in Nigeria. You get what I'm saying? Because of the backlash that can occur from that.
So the angst that some of these groups have, my fault.
Yeah, let me pass it to Jax. Go ahead, Jax.
Yeah, CJ, I just wanted to give CJ his props. He know what he's talking about, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of like I said, a lot of your your average Nigerians still don't even understand this, and it's really because of the divide. I feel like the South don't know too much about the North. They probably just going based off of the propaganda that's pushed on to the rest of the country, and vice versa. Like a lot of
Same type of
things,
stuff in America, bro. I
a lot
get
of
it.
the, a lot of the, a lot of the, a lot of this stuff was strategically, even down to the population of the North. Like they purposely, push
Yo,
like
hey,
to be the majority of the people, like literally why are their population even much more expansive? They're the head of the military, the head of the what I'm saying, like you just had Buhari like the past 8 years or whatever, who could have probably even went for further. There's a lot of structure, like a lot of
mm-hmm,
people don't even think about it, like how even I don't even think Tinubu was even ready for what he got into. You understand? There's been structure like what you mentioned that's been there for years already, years. Like,
mm-hmm,
and people say like if he not even careful, that's why he had to like fire a whole bunch of people in the whatever house represented, like because there was even staged coups and all this kind of stuff like that was about to happen to him. But
yeah,
it's not like the ones that people really think. It's really because of it's the threaten of the power structure that's already in place. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these northerners is like, okay, it's not clearly it's not a Euro, it's not a northerner that's in charge at the moment. So they gotta watch and keep a clear just to make sure their interests are still gonna be protected. You understand? Like
mm-hmm,
just to make sure, like, okay, if this do step out of bounds, what you think gonna happen? So he not even really safe like that. So a lot of people who has these high expectations for him, I don't even think he understood the structure he was stepping into. He probably was doing the typical politician, how they
mm-hmm,
illegally got into power and all that kind of stuff. We know all of that. But as far
mm-hmm,
as what he came in there to, and trying the laws, certain things that he trying to pass could get easily blocked. So
mm-hmm,
recently he just now put, I think, Yoruba members in the head of the military and all that kind of stuff. So all these things is slowly. I feel like he low key trying to slowly change, because the only way he can make anything even shake or change is if these structures are manipulated a bit and
mm-hmm.
switch from whatever the hell has been the past 30 years or whatever,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever, however long it's been. But like I
It,
said, I just wanted to give you your props because you really know what you're talking about. You're not even a person in Nigeria. Me too. I'm like a person. I was born there, but came when I was really young, But
mm-hmm,
I have the same engagement, like, interest, as far as like of my learning of Nigeria and stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
And I've one thing I noticed is the people there don't even really, the people in Lagos and stuff like that, not to really,
Don't know as
but
much as the ones that study.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
because the country is so big and
Mm-hmm.
things are way above people's head that not even.
Way
But
above
if you
people
look,
head.
but if you look at the structures that's in there, I'm trying to say, why did Buhari, people like that, able to do what they do? I'm trying to
Mm-hmm,
say, and
mm-hmm,
protect their people's interest, the Northerners' interest. You don't see them complaining as much as things are
mm-hmm,
bad for them too up there, but it's like if you think about the whole totality, I'm trying to say, why is it the Igbo will never get into the, I'm trying to say?
yeah,
And
yeah,
the only reason why Tinubu was able to get some kind of favorites in the, because they probably already made a deal, back before then. I'm trying to say? He helped
mm-hmm,
Buhari, I think one of his cabinet people,
mm-hmm,
whatever he did was able to help Buhari get into the, and they already struck a deal like, okay, next up is, such and such, Tinubu, you know what I'm
mm-hmm.
trying to say? Things like
Oh
that.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like these things has been strategically planned, like literally,
yeah, yeah.
But
Because
like I said, and if you look at any any country, period, if that's the reason why the AES was able to do what they did. That's
mm-hmm.
why a lot of people who don't understand the AES countries is not the same as Nigerian
Not the
countries
same.
because
They don't
yeah,
they
whoever
don't
got the
understand it.
military has the country. That's period. That's the
Yo,
head of
yo,
state.
yo. This is
And
this,
if you
this is the
got
thing
and
about
these
Nigerians.
and the Northerners strict, make sure they have the military. If you don't got the
Facts,
military, what are you doing? You're not doing nothing.
facts. Yo,
Simple
Nigerians
as
are
that.
funny, man. They swear. They swear. Yo, if Abraham Traore was a Nigerian, they would kill him.
Literally,
This is what they don't understand about Nigerians. They would kill him.
yeah,
Because if he's not,
Why you say that?
because he's, put it like this, right? unless he was like a Fulani Northerner or Kunari, if he was anything else other than that, he couldn't run that play in Nigeria. And anybody that understands Nigeria knows what I'm talking about. If he was not Fulani or Kunari, because Kunari, they kind of get a little bit more leeway because of their history with the Fulani, because they were able to stop them. So that's why Sani Abacha, who was not Fulani, he was Kunari. Even some Nigerians to this day still think Abacha was Fulani or Hausa. He was Kunari. There's only two ethnic groups that can run that play that Ibrahim Traore is doing. And even then, since Ibrahim Traore is concerned about the entire Burkina Faso people, regardless of their ethnic background, that is something that even a lot of Northerners would have a problem if he was trying to do anything for people in the South. So it's a very weird dynamic where people have this, we want ours, but don't let them get theirs, but you share the
So
same
you
country.
actually have respect for what Troy is doing.
Yeah, I do. I do have a respect
right.
for it. Yeah, I don't have no problem with it. I'm just saying I know how Nigerians think, because Nigerians have, not all, but there's this dynamic of ethnic and religious bigotry that makes people go against their own best interests. So even if somebody was to step in, if they made it a fair system, some people don't like that. I'm gonna give you an example, right? We're talking about Lagos and about all the people in Lagos. I was in Lagos in '96. There might have been like 5 million people in Lagos. I have relatives that lived in Lagos, cousins born and raised in Lagos. Had an uncle that became a millionaire in Lagos. Back then, traffic wasn't crazy like that. It was probably about 5 million people, no lie. It felt like being like the size of like a Houston in terms of people. Now it's like 20 million. Now here's part of the issue with Nigeria. You have one
That's
function.
a crazy bump.
Yeah,
That's
you
crazy.
can look this up. You can Google this. You can Google what I'm saying about the population. Now, why are people going to Lagos?
Now, I've heard that. The only thing I heard was that the population that was coming in was from outside. But you're saying it was an internal
It's
population
internal.
boom.
People are starting to migrate from the village or the rural areas to the main.
So it's internal. I got you.
It's just like Sierra Leone. Same thing in Freetown.
Yeah. So people started migrating. Now, the reason why that happened because economic issues, right? So this is more economic migration. You're going there because you need better economic opportunities. Why is Lagos such a hot point for this migration? Because they're the only city with an international seaport. So
it's
you
like
got a
New
country
York.
over.
It's like a California. It has infrastructure, it has business.
Exactly. So
right.
If you could just get the crumbs off of this economic opportunity coming from international imports that are only allowed to clear through Lagos.
CJ, Calabar has an international seaport.
It's not functioning. And I know how I know this because my dad did international business. My dad shipped textiles from South Carolina to Nigeria and had to clear his containers in Lagos before it was sent to Aba. So I'm speaking as somebody that has, you get what I'm saying? I'm speaking as somebody that had experience in seeing this firsthand. Because of the lack of.
What about Port Harcourt?
A lot of those areas you're talking about, especially like Port Harcourt, those are for oil exports.
Okay.
So they're not even. They even have a whole security outfit. I forgot the name of it that overlooks piracy in the rivers and in the areas in and around Port Harcourt. Because I actually have my mom lived in Port Harcourt for a few years with her uncle. Before she came to the US back in the 70s. So I have relatives all over the country, direct blood relatives, not just, not just Lagos or even in the East, all over, right? Now, when you're talking about Lagos, because of that is a big international trading hub and you got an international airport, people are going to go there because of the economic opportunities, even if you got to get the crumbs off the economic opportunities that can be had over there. The fact is that Nigeria does not want to have a balanced economic system that would allow for other regions to flourish or other cities to flourish from an economic development because it's part of the control of Nigeria. You go to China, China has 34 major seaports and 2,000 minor ones. If you look at the cities in China, that have developed over the last 30 years since their economic boom.
It was the major ports.
Certain cities literally went up to like went from being a million, 2 million to being these big mega cities with 10 to 20 million people.
Yeah.
Because they invested in economic structures, railroads, and seaports, infrastructure in those regions. Nigeria is unwilling, not unable, unwilling to do that, because what happens is that if you do these things, then it kind of goes back to like what the Aburi Accord was kind of about. And they don't want to implement any balanced regional issue, especially the political elite. Because
elaborate on that.
Go ahead.
I don't know about that accord.
The Aburi Accord was something that was created in 1966, before the Civil War occurred, that would allow for each region to have control over their own economic development, where the profits, any income generated from each region would go to the federal government, but the rest would stay within region for them to continue to economically develop. When you have a structure like that, a federation where each country is able to have control over their own resources, you automatically have to implement things like an international seaport, an international airport. You also cannot interfere in any economic development projects like electricity grids, railways. Certain regions in Nigeria still have standard gauge railroads.
So you're handcuffed.
So you're handcuffed from economic development.
Gotcha.
Bridges, when you start talking about interstate development, right? Those are federal projects. A state cannot create a state cannot create its own international seaport. That is a federal project. The federal government has to override that, and then there has to be certain things cleared with international trade organizations, right? Because if they're going to bring their ships, they need to have certain things in place for safety and regulation if their ships are going to be coming from these other countries, right?
Treaties, tariffs, agreed.
Exactly. So when you stifle development because you don't want another region to, and it doesn't mean that other regions don't have their own economics, but they're stifled, their growth is limited, their potential is limited due to these things. So what we're having in Nigeria is that by the time 2050 rolls around, at the rate that Nigeria is growing, when Nigeria gets to 350, 400 million people, you will have only 3 true international airports that can fly around the country: Lagos, Abuja, and Kano. And you'll only have 1 truly functional international seaport for 350 to 400 million people. That it's like, imagine America and you only have an international seaport in New York, but you say Houston can't have a port, Miami can't have a port, and LA can't have a port, and Seattle can't have a port. You're going to force migration to the place where the economic development is at.
Yeah.
Everybody would just move to New York.
Everybody's got to go to New York.
Why would you just stay in Houston, Miami, or in LA when know you're not going to have the same economic opportunity?
Yeah.
So this is what people are playing with themselves. They don't understand that this type of mentality, this regional hatred, ethnic and religious bigotry, it's going to devour and consume all Nigerians because they don't want to see this balance and development. And like I said, I'm just going to be the Nostradamus of this situation. Because when Nigeria falls up, starts really get chaotic, and the news that's going to come out of Nigeria, people are going to put their flags down. That green, white, green, going to go down. I'm telling you. They're going to be embarrassed. And this is just the reality of what Nigeria is.
But they put their flags down and then do what?
No, I'm saying they're going to be embarrassed.
Oh.
That's what I mean by they're going to put their flags down. Like all that bragging about this, just like when Somali fell apart, a lot of Somalians wasn't, I don't know Somalians. I was in places like Minnesota. But, when they became like a failed state, you know what I'm saying? And Al-Shabaab or whatever one of their groups had taken over, it was a while before they can kind of like get their footing, but, these are things that are going to have to happen. They're going to have to happen because people are not stopping it. It's like watching a train wreck that's about to happen. It's happening. It's just a matter of when. And people think it's a game, like, until it's not a game no more. Like, people are going to continue moving to where the economic access is. You know what I'm saying? And they're trying to clear out Lagos, but see, they're trying to take down housing that's considered unsafe housing or not sanctioned by the state government. They did that over the last couple of years when Tinubu took over. And I forgot who the governor is. His name escapes me, the current governor of Lagos. But here's part of the problem. You can remove people out, but where are they going to go? Where are they going to go for other economic opportunities? Where are you creating economic zones for your growing population? Because all it's going to do is the rapid unemployment with young men is going to lead them to being more in kidnapping crews, banditry, jihadists. You're just creating an economic situation where men are going to go more into these things. And it's going to be unsafe for everybody. And that's why you see Nigeria is kind of going in this direction, because Nigeria wasn't like this. It just wasn't like this. And it doesn't mean that there's not good things about Nigeria. Like Dinah says, Nigeria, if you go to Nigeria and you get with the right people that can take you to the right places, but ultimately you're in danger in Nigeria one way or another.
If they're not good.
If your people around you ain't good, you know what I mean? Like if your people around you ain't good, like a guy went to Edo. There's a story. A guy went back to his home state in Edo State. He was coming from overseas. His friend killed him. This happened like last week.
Yeah, I read about. I didn't read. What was the details behind it? I saw that on the news, but like, why did he?
Out of envy, probably more than likely out of envy, because when people move west and they start making euros or pounds or Canadian dollars or whatever, right? Then you come, sometimes these people are begging for money from you. They want you to start sending them money. The second most money in Nigeria that's made is remittances from overseas.
Once you say no, it's off with his head.
Yeah. So the remittances is like the second most part of Nigeria's GDP. It's remittances after oil. Not another industry. Remittances from overseas, Western Union, people's money getting put in their accounts from people that live overseas. So a lot of people are reliant on those of us that are overseas.
Hey guys, we're gonna go ahead and close out. Everyone, thanks so much for joining. Enjoy your New Year. Be safe. New Year's Eve.
Happy
Whatever
New
you
Year,
got going on tonight.
CJ,
Yeah.
good bill, man. Happy New Year, bro. I look forward to speaking to you again.
All right, everyone. Appreciate y'all.
All right, Dennis. All right, Will.
Peace, peace.
Danful offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Each trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshe traditional system Ifa native to Yoruba land, Nigeria, with Danful, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danful, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danful, Africa. To learn more, visit danful.africa.